All right. Thank you, everybody, for joining. My name is Sanjit Dang. I am the co-founder and chairman of UFirst Capital. I also have Ekta Dang here. She's the CEO and founder. And we do several events where we bring in VCs and CIOs roughly on a monthly basis. And before we talk about today's event, I just want to tell you a little bit about UFirst Capital. We are venture capital as a service firm for corporations, and we also do investments. We've done roughly 20 investments in companies like SpaceX, Twitter, the Elon Musk company, and then also Pensando, Palantir, and so on. So that's very briefly about UFirst Capital. Ekta, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining today. Really excited for this session. Like Sanjit mentioned, we've been in the Bay Area for about 21 years now, and started UFirst Capital about 4 years ago. Along with the investment arm, we are also running an innovation arm for corporations, mid-sized to large-sized corporations who want to strategize their innovation and get access to specific technologies that they have been looking for.
Wonderful. So in the audience today, we have, I would say, a mix of investors and speakers and founders. There are startups as well as there are investors. Obviously, we have Matt, who is our keynote speaker, but we have others as well who have been prolific investors in tech companies. And I also want to give a shout out to some of them. Dinesh is there. Dinesh Kabat, you would like to introduce yourself?
Sure.
Maybe. Yeah, go ahead.
Hey, thanks. Yeah, this is Dinesh. I'm an investor based in the Bay Area, Silicon Valley. I was in tech for almost 20 years, and then last 10 years been more involved on the investing side, and been invested in several companies with Sanjit. And yeah, look forward to getting this update. And
yeah, wonderful. Thank you, Dinesh. We have Takano-san from TIS Ventures. Takano-san, would you love to say hello before we get started with Matt?
Sure. Can you hear me? Oh, thank you. Thank you very much for inviting me today. We are representing a Japanese SI system integrator, TIS Intech Group. We are pretty much interested in working together with US local startups for fintech spaces mostly. So looking forward to have the opportunity to working with you sometime in the near future. Thank you.
Wonderful. And then we have some serial entrepreneurs.
We also have Horiguchi-san from JCB International, which is a huge credit card company based off of Japan.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Horiguchi-san, would you love to say hello? Okay, maybe we'll come back to him. And we have Hitesh Chalani. He's a serial entrepreneur, sold a company to Red Hat, and then has worked at Amazon, AWS, etc. So why don't we get started for today's event? So we thought, Ekta and I were thinking about our next speaker. We thought Matt would be perfect because we would love to bring two perspectives to our audience. And those two are, one, the current market conditions and how that's affecting the venture capital ecosystem, especially how it's affecting the startup founders. And secondly, Matt's perspective, especially from a Citi angle, Matt's perspective on startup innovation and the areas of interest and how he thinks about investment. So Matt has kindly taken the time to prepare a few slides. And we would love for Matt to share those slides. But before that, let's welcome Matt. Matt, thank you so much in advance for taking the time.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm really appreciative of the opportunity to be here and excited for the discussion and hope to keep it interactive. I think the best discussions are always two-way. So please, people should feel free to interrupt and ask questions as we go. But excited to tell you about Citi Ventures and how we operate, and also to talk about, the areas that are top of mind for us in the current environment.
Perfect. Thank you. And we'll target roughly maybe 30 minutes for your presentation plus the Q&A, and then we'll get into the startup pitching session. And for
Okay.
startups that are pitching, please ping me if you have not pinged already, and I'll also publish the pitching order. Everybody will have 5 minutes to pitch. Thank you.
Cool. Let me share my screen, but maybe before I do that, I'll just talk about my background. So I've been at Citi Ventures now 4 years. I lead the enterprise practice. I'll talk about the different practices that we have. We have one fintech practice and an enterprise practice. Our team is distributed between Bay Area, New York, London, Singapore, and Israel. Before I joined Citi Ventures, I was at Cisco, running a portion of the corporate development teams, doing investments in M&A across 3 of the different business segments within Cisco. I've also spent time at Comcast Ventures, traditional venture fund, and I started life as a engineer. I was a chip designer first, BSMSWE. And before I turned to the dark side, as my engineering friends would say, I was a chip designer. So, but excited to tell you more about Citi Ventures. Let me jump into that now. So you can really think about our role at Citi Ventures in sort of 2 broad things. One is we are helping Citi innovate, and so we're here to help Citi innovate and accelerate Citi's growth, and to really instigate change from the outside in the organization. Citi is a company that's been around a couple hundred years. It's over 200,000 people. It sometimes takes energy and initiative and agitation in order to get large companies to change, and that's part of the role that we serve, in addition to being investors and trying to be good stewards of Citi's dollars that we invest in startups. We're trying to drive change inside of Citi, and that's really the mission that we have, is to help bring to the leaders inside of Citi a view into what's happening outside and how that's relevant to Citi, and how Citi can leverage that in order to become a better bank going forward and serve its clients and its customers better. So we take sort of this outside in perspective, where we spend time with startups in the external market, in the venture market. We also spend a fair amount of time with the leaders inside of the bank, trying to understand the gaps that they have from a product and a technology and a priority perspective, where they're trying to take the business over the next 6 to 36 months. We then will help those companies get sort of introduced to folks within Citi and provide back channel feedback and help those companies navigate Citi. And then we invest in a number of those companies as well, and sort of bring this broad perspective to helping Citi innovate. One thing that we like to talk about, and why a lot of companies like to work with Citi, both fintechs and enterprise companies, is the sort of the breadth of the Citi franchise. We spend $11 billion a year on technology. We facilitate a large number of flows every day across multiple geographies and multiple countries. We have clients and customers in 95 different countries. For those that don't know, think about Citi as really 2 different large portions of Citi. One is something called ICG, or the Institutional Client Group, which is sort of the bank of companies. So we serve, like we might be the bank of other large enterprises, for example, like a Cisco or a Nike or a Ford or somebody like that. We're their banks, so that's part of our business. We're also bank a number of financial institutions, hedge funds, other investors, things like that, and serve as where they manage cash, where they trade, things like that. And then we also have a consumer bank and a wealth business that's focused more on individuals and family offices as well. And that's where we come to the sort of the retail consumer element of what we do. Citi Ventures itself, as I said, the way we think about our remit is to help Citi innovate, understand Citi's priorities, find companies that are relevant to those areas, and then invest in what we think is the number one or number two company in a given category. The reason we think that's important, and that is overlaps with doing things that are strategic to Citi, is if we find the companies that are the number one or number two company in something that's relevant to Citi and where Citi has a challenge, and invest in that company, and then try to bridge that company into Citi, it has sort of a dual benefit effect. One, if you're Citi, you want to be partnered with the best company in a space, the number one or two company in a space, because that is good by definition. If it's really the number one or two company, going to be the one that has the most revenue. If it has the most revenue, it's going to have the most money to spend on R&D. And if it spends the most money on R&D, it's probably going to have the best product roadmap and the best innovation roadmap and the best ecosystem around the company. And if you want to be a customer of a company for sort of a 10-year period of time, then you want a company that has a great innovation roadmap and a great ecosystem around it. And many times it's not easy to get technology into a large enterprise like Citi. That can take months, sometimes even years. And so if you want to go through that process, you want to do it with a company that you can be partnered with for a long time. So that's why trying to find that, what we think is going to be the leading company in a space that solves a problem for Citi is important. And then, of course, as investors, as many of you probably know, the number one or two company in space usually has the best outcome as well, whether that be a IPO or M&A. They tend to have the best financial outcomes as well. So that we feel like being invested in the number one or two company in the space and then accelerating the adoption of that company into Citi is strategic to Citi and overlaps, and that's sort of how we think about sort of our mission. We are a stage agnostic investor, so we'll invest, write checks anywhere from $2 million up to $20 million. Typically, as early as a company when they have a product in market and a handful of customers. We don't do a lot of pre-product investments, all the way up until pre-IPO. We've got over 100 companies in the portfolio. The team is 14 investors, as I said, majority here on the West Coast, but we also have folks in New York, Israel, London, and Singapore as well. One of the things we're measured on, in addition to are we being good investors, is are we able to commercialize the companies that we invest in inside of Citi? Meaning, are the companies that we invest in, are they doing commercial deals with Citi, and is Citi becoming a customer or partner and helping to improve Citi's business and Citi's offerings to its clients and its customers? One of the ways that we accomplish that and help bring sort of the outside into Citi is by putting together a number of events and workshops every year where we are pulling together leaders from inside of Citi and startups that are solving problems in the areas where those leaders operate. Sometimes we'll even include leaders from other organizations as well, other large enterprises as well that are similar to Citi. We call those people sort of our tech council members. So for example, if we were going to pull together an event around some area of cybersecurity, maybe data security, we'd pull the appropriate folks from Citi. We would pull in maybe some leaders from other large enterprises that are also interested in data security. And then we bring in some entrepreneurs that are innovating in and around the data security space and sort of enable that three-way dialogue, which we think has value to all the constituents there, in the sense that the enterprise technology leaders get to compare notes with their peers from other companies and with folks at Citi that are trying to solve those problems, so they can understand how others are attempting to solve those problems. And then they both get to hear from innovative startups that are trying to solve those problems. And then if you're the startup entrepreneur, you get to test your value prop with enterprise execs that are potential buyers. So we like bringing together those folks. We meet with thousands of companies every year, and we make a number of those introductions into Citi. We'll talk about the venture investing program here. This is the team. You can see we have pretty broad team. Most of these people have venture investment experience. I'm into Citi Ventures, and the way we think about this is we tend to all have majors and minors in the different areas, whether that be enterprise or fintech. But just want to give you kind of a view of the team that we have at Citi Ventures. These are the different areas that we cover. I think about them in two broad buckets. One is the enterprise area that I lead, and the other is
You don't cover me, so I'm done.
fintech. Yeah. So, sorry, was there a question?
I think
No
somebody was talking in background.
Okay, no
Please
worries.
mute if you're not talking. Thank you.
Cool, no worries. So I lead the enterprise practice. That's areas like cloud, cybersecurity, developer tools, customer experience and marketing, automation, data, AI, ML. Those are sort of the big buckets of stuff that we spend time with in the enterprise landscape. And then on the fintech side, it's areas like, as you might imagine, fintech, commerce, payments, lending, prop tech, and then DLT and digital assets are areas where we spend time also. So those are the two main practices within Citi Ventures. Give you a sense of our portfolio. As I said, we've invested in over 100 companies to date. Some of the more notable names that come to mind would be companies like Plaid in the fintech space, Secure and Trulioo in sort of the KYC and AML space, Hopper and Cart in the commerce space. In the enterprise space, some of the leading companies we're investors in are Cribble, Sneak, Harness, Docker. We're investors in Eightfold in the HR tech space, and then companies like Roofstock in the prop tech space. So pretty broad set of areas where we spend time, but all that are relevant to Citi. The other piece I did want to mention is that we do have a impact fund that is focused on investing in these areas: workforce development, financial capability, physical and social infrastructure, sustainability, and then sort of Black and minority entrepreneurs as well. And that's something we started in 2020 as an effort. That team is separate from our team, but we do have if there are projects in these areas, then we are interested in hearing about those as well. And this is the portfolio across those areas that the Citi Impact Fund has been investing in, to give you a flavor of those companies as well. That's sort of the quick overview on Citi Ventures. When I think about the areas, maybe I'll pause there and see if there's any questions.
Maybe one question, just since there are a lot of founders in the audience. I know you mentioned check size can vary 2 to 20. In the current environment, has the check size evolved? And same question for the stage that you're focused on in the current environment.
Yeah, it's a good question, Sanjit. Check size has not evolved too much, I would say, but I would say we are curious to see how our role in rounds will change going forward. I think, I say a Series A for us, we probably write a $2 to $5 million check. A Series B is kind of in the 5 to 8 range, maybe 10, and a late stage is in the 10 to 20 range. So those are the different sizes of checks we write by stage. We are stage agnostic. I do think we focus on different stages over time, depending on the environment. Our check size hasn't really changed in the current environment. What I would say is, while those check sizes that I just mentioned could have been, co-lead checks, we don't lead a lot of deals. We're typically syndicate partners, but historically, pre-2018, those could have been lead or co-lead type check sizes. But round sizes have gotten so large the last 3 years that we tend to be just syndicate partners at this point. I think we're curious somewhat if rounds will get smaller again, and if there'll be an opportunity to have a larger role in some of the financing. So that's an open question. I think from a stage perspective, I think we continue to look at all stages, but I will say that I think that there are a number of companies at the mid and later stages that did rounds in 2021 that were, high priced rounds that were ahead of the business traction. And so I think there's a number of companies there that are, probably still ahead of where their business traction is if you look at the current market environment. And so that's probably led us to spend maybe a little bit more time at the early stage than at the mid and later stages, is the way I would characterize it.
Yeah, Matt, do you take family office as investors in your current fund? And what stage is the fund? Is it a 2 and 20, or how does the investors
Yeah.
get to?
Good question. It's actually, we don't have a fund per se. We invest Citi balance sheet dollars. So we don't have any outside capital. It's all Citi's capital. So.
Okay, but I got confused on the deck. You said 14 investors. That's why I asked.
Oh, yeah. So we have, the team is 14 people. Sorry, the investors meant our team that we're making investors, not 14 LP. Sorry. We should probably clarify that. Fair question.
No worries.
If any other questions, otherwise what I can talk about is some of the areas that we're excited about these days.
Yeah, and as you talk about the area, if you can also talk about GPT and OpenAI and how you are thinking of impact to the startup ecosystem, because that's a prime question that we hear in everybody's mind nowadays. Yeah,
that's top on my list as I was making my notes last night, Sanjit, was when I think about areas. So yeah, that's this area of AI-enabled applications, specifically with generative AI, is definitely an area where we're spending time. I think the areas where we think it could be relevant to Citi are areas like summarizing documents. You can imagine, let's say you're somebody at a hedge fund that reads a lot of research, like one of our customers, and is trying to keep track of multiple companies and multiple markets or multiple research threads in order to make decisions around a potential investment. Something that can help you consume that data, summarize that data in a more succinct fashion, and pull out the salient points. So that's one area that we think generative AI could be helpful to Citi and Citi's clients. Other areas are legal, so like contract generation and contract negotiation, I guess I would say. So we see legal as an area. Marketing and sales, obviously, that's a pretty well-known use case. Creating marketing copy or creating emails, customized emails to reach out to clients and interact with clients from a marketing and sales perspective is an area. A big area that we're interested in exploring further is the customer interaction side. Can it be used? We've always seen how great Chat GPT is at interacting with humans. Can you use that to create a better chat interface for your customers and your customer interactions, and make those more sophisticated than they are currently. And then the last one I'll call out is, and it'll be tied to another area where we spend time, is in the developer space and developer efficiency. Things like GitHub Copilot and tools where you can use these generative algorithms to actually help write code, so that you write a small snippet of the code, but these types of tools complete it. We think that's another area that would be interesting. I will say we still have some questions about the space. One is, if you're a startup, like, what is the moat? Like, what is the barrier that you're going to be able to create? If everybody's building on an algorithm that comes out of Google or comes out of OpenAI, then where is your differentiation really? Is it at the prompt engineering layer? Is it at the customer experience layer? Is it because you're taking that model and augmenting it further with your own data? And if so, is that proprietary data that you have a moat around or not? We're trying to, really understand, like, how are these companies going to build barriers to competition over time? So that's a question that we have. I don't think we've answered it. We're just starting to meet companies in this space now. The other question that we have is around IP ownership, because we've noted that folks have created or are trying to sue the companies that have created some of these models, saying, hey, you trained on data that was my data, therefore that model is I own some portion of that model because you trained on my data. And I don't think we've seen resolution to that yet. So that's another area where we're sort of trying to understand what the risks might be to businesses in this category.
That's new.
Yeah.
That's a new territory, I guess, even for the legal world.
Yeah, and I'm curious if others have a perspective, but we don't have an answer to that. We've just seen that these challenges have come up, these companies have been challenged. So
Yeah. One of the things we have witnessed is algorithms do get commoditized over time. Even if a startup feels I have a better algorithm today, 2 years from now, somebody will come up with a better algorithm, and they claim at that time that, hey, my data is my differentiation. So I lean more towards data as the real IP versus the algo. But some people think otherwise.
yeah, it's a good question. I mean, I guess my current thesis is that I guess the companies that build a really great customer experience with these algorithms that then get more customers will have more data to enhance the algorithm further and kind of create that virtuous cycle, if you will. That's my current thesis, but I haven't, I need to test it. But that's where I think the differentiation could take place. I think it's going to be more verticalized and specialized than general is where the winners will emerge.
Right.
So that's one area where we've been spending time. Another area where we spend a lot of time, because it's really important to Citi, is cybersecurity. And there, the themes that we're spending time around are software supply chain security. As folks probably know, if you're when you build an application today, a lot of the code that is used is open source code. It might have been 30, 40 years ago, you would write a program and 90% of it would be developed in-house. Well, now probably 80% is code external, and you're developing 20% in-house, which is really maybe some of the business logic and some of the glue logic, but you're taking off the shelf parts from open source, whether it be databases or interfaces or API layers, things like that. You're using a lot of open source code, and you're basically taking something that's coming from outside your enterprise into your software supply chain. And so being able to understand that and secure that is a big question, or I'll say a big risk vector, threat vector that we are trying to ensure that the enterprise is protected from. The really two pieces of that. One is that software that you're bringing in, is it safe? Is it secure? What's the provenance of that software? What do you know about who developed it? How quickly do they make bug fixes? Things like that. Do you have a bill of materials that you can understand all the elements that are in it and any vulnerabilities in those elements? So that's one. The other area is your build pipeline, and this happened with SolarWinds, where their build pipeline was actually compromised and was inserting something in the build pipeline that was actually nefarious for their customers. So ensuring that your CI/CD pipeline is actually secure is the other area where we're spending time around software supply chain security. Other areas of cybersecurity that are of interest to us are vulnerability management. So, we all these large enterprises have scanners that are spitting out a list of vulnerabilities a mile long, saying, here are all the things you need to fix. Well, nobody has the resources to fix all those things in a given amount of time. So you need to really figure out how to prioritize those. And so that's things that can help aggregate all the vulnerabilities that come out of your scanners, federate them so you can normalize them and understand which are duplicates, which are related to one another, prioritize them, say, here's the ones that really need to be fixed based on the criticality of the system that they run on, whether it's public facing, whether it's internal facing. Is it a public facing website, or is it the internal print server in the mailroom? And then deliver it to the people that actually need to remediate it in their own environments. So, developers like to work in their own environment. They don't want to go to yet another tool. So if you can deliver to them in their own environment, the fix that needs to be done with all the context around the fix, then you can make them much more effective and enable them to make those fixes better, right? So that's whole vulnerability management space we've been spending time around in other areas of application security. Data security is a top of mind topic as well that we're spending time around. There's a new category of companies called DSPM, data security posture management companies. We think that's an interesting category, and I've been spending time with those companies. And then finally, things related to automation and efficiency. in and around cybersecurity. So how do we automate more and more of the remediation process? How do we enable our operators to be more efficient at fixing and remediating issues in the enterprise, and automating elements of that is super important. Any questions on cyber? The other areas I want to talk about was developer tooling as well.
Any thoughts on, I think Ekta was talking about the other day, GPT can self-generate code, malicious code as well, intentionally malicious code,
Yeah.
and hackers can use that.
Yeah, it's a good question. I think that's another threat to the software supply chain, is you could have people generate a bunch of, like you said, fake code, or even fake open source repositories in a way, right? That it's I don't have an answer to it. I think it's potentially a threat. I don't know what the answer to that is, Sanjit, other than, looking at who's using it, and the community is like a filter for it is the only thing I can think of. But it's a great question. It's a great question. I do think this generative AI is, while it has some benefits for us, it certainly can enable threat actors to do a lot of new things as well. Like you said, they can generate new code easily. They can generate better phishing emails. I mean, most of the phishing emails I get, have typos in them and don't look very good. But if they come a lot more sophisticated, it'll be harder for, people to tell the difference. And many times the human element is the weakest link in the cybersecurity chain, as we know. So phishing emails could get a lot more sophisticated. A number of other areas, fake images, deep fakes, generate fake credentials, there's all kinds of things that I think would be are potential areas of concern, as these are tools that can be used both by the good guys and the bad guys.
So one question, Matt, it always comes up, particularly with regard to entrepreneurs who are in the cybersecurity space, is, do they go to the market with their solution, or try to integrate across the vertical stacks that sell to large enterprises? And what have you seen working or not working in that regard?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think initially companies need to go direct to customers, because I think they need that direct customer feedback on their product. I do think integrations are important. So I guess I'd say a little bit of both. I think you need to have the direct interactions with your customers to understand the value prop and get the feedback on the product. But I do know, when I talk to other large enterprise CISOs, they do want things that work with their other tools, right? They want things that integrate with their other tools and work nicely and play well with their other tools. That's important to them. So I think it's a combination of the two, but I think initially you will sell direct, you'll need those integrations, and maybe over time you can get, as you build those integrations, maybe then you can partner with some of these companies from a go-to-market perspective. But I think that's something that's later for most companies in the cyberspace, is my sense.
Thanks. And that, I think, brings us to the question that every entrepreneur has in their mind is, particularly with regard to Citi, what's the best way to approach Citi as a vendor, and as well as a customer, before they may be ready for the venture arm, let's say? Yeah.
So there's a number of ways. In the last year, we hired somebody into a tech BD role that sits in our central IT organization. His name's Rob Perry, and he's responsible for sort of gathering all the tech requirements and tech priorities across Citi, and then helping companies that come in navigate to the right, helping them, one, understand is a priority or not. That would be the first question. And if it is a priority, helping them navigate to the right stakeholder. So that's our tech BD team, with Rob Perry, and Todd Spies is also, sort of who leads our venture BD team, is also, co-conspirators with us. So the three of us kind of work together, or three groups sort of work together in that area. So that's one way. Second is our cyber innovation lab. So we have a cyber innovation lab that is responsible for looking at, testing, evaluating new products in the cyber area, because it is so important to Citi. And so for cybersecurity companies, that's a great place to engage Citi. And then last is we do have a number of innovation labs in different countries, Israel, Dublin, Ireland, New York, that can evaluate products and understand if those products could be relevant to Citi. So that's sort of a third place. And then of course, the Citi Ventures team. So those are the different areas, and I can help direct people to the right areas as they reach out.
Thank you.
Yep. The one other area that's important to us that I just want to highlight to folks is this whole developer tooling, developer experience area. So we talked about how ChatGPT could generate fake code, but it can also generate good code for people too, and make developers much more efficient. So that's an area of interest, these coding assistants, if you will. Higher layers of abstraction. So some of these orchestration and workflow tools that allow you to orchestrate microservices and stitch those microservices together without worrying about the orchestration between them, like the resilience, the retrying, the rolling back if a process doesn't complete, being able to push that, only focus on the business logic that you need to build and let some of these other layers, the resiliency, the retry layer, the durability layer, offload that to somebody else. We think that's a pretty interesting area. But the trend is higher layers of extraction and enabling developers to really focus on the business logic. Coding environments to make coders more effective. We think that that's an interesting area. I would say environments as a service, so the ability to more quickly spin up environments. So somebody checks in some code for the latest release, automatically spin up an environment that gets shared with QA, people in maybe product engineering or product marketing, people in test, so that they can all sort of start testing the new code as soon as it's released, while it's in pre-production. We think that's an interesting area. Test automation, things that enable developers to not have to write as many tests, but to automatically generate the tests. That's an area of interest. And then finally, things that help with code readability and code documentation. So you have lots of older projects and older code inside of large enterprises, and somebody takes over that project. Like the many times the hardest thing is understanding what's existing and what was written, right? And so the extent it has documentation, great, but a lot of code isn't that well documented. So things that help with code readability and code documentation, we also find are interesting as well. So those are kind of the areas that are of interest to us, sort of like this generative AI enabled apps, different areas of cybersecurity, and the different areas of developer tooling, as well as things in the lastly, maybe in the data space, data quality, data lineage, some of the database as a service offerings also of interest to us. So I'll pause there and see if there's any questions about sort of our priorities and the areas that we're excited about looking at in the next 12 months.
Along those lines, we are small investors, but we have a common company called Harness. And we hear that Harness has developed a strong relationship and grown obviously as a portfolio company, but beyond that as well.
Yeah, we have a great relationship with Harness. I think we're excited about their product and have seen benefits from using it. And Jyoti's great. He's been a great partner to us, and we're very happy with that relationship.
Wonderful. Any questions from the audience? Actually, somebody, Dinesh posted a question. He asked, how big of a problem do you think cybersecurity will be with AI coming into this space?
I think we're just now starting to reach out to some of our some of the cyber companies that we're invested in, having this discussion about how could generative AI be a challenge? And I think the things we've seen is like, or we thought of that could be challenges. We don't know yet, but things that we've ideated or thought could be a challenge is, the ability to generate like real world, outputs that look like passwords and things like that for authentication or to generate traffic that resembles normal traffic to get through like an IDS, potentially attacks on the models themselves, right? Could you taint the training data of a model in order to get it to give outputs that allow you to bypass some systems, or to dupe some systems or fake some systems are interesting. That could then be propagated to the applications. As we talked about, generating fake code that contains vulnerabilities, and then of course creating more human-like phishing attacks. Those are the areas I'll say we're kind of early in our investigation, because we're talking to our cyber portfolio about that now. But those are the areas that we've flagged initially.
Wonderful. Thanks for answering the question. Any other question from the audience? Maybe, Matt, if you can briefly talk about from a banking perspective. I know you focus more on enterprise side, but from a bank's perspective, how do you see the industry evolving? And also, what new technologies do you think Citi is looking to adopt?
Yeah, I think, look, so I think I'll separate it into things that I think are very banking specific and things I think are somewhat more generic to large enterprise. In the generic to large enterprise bucket, I think we all realize like every business is becoming a software business, and that to compete, you need to have good software developers. You need to be able to get good developers and retain good developers, and you need to make them effective, right? And so that's why, one of our priorities is this developer tooling and developer experience space. We think that's a really, really important area in terms of large enterprises being competitive, because software has become such a large portion of the overall solution, and the ability to deliver features via software is such a large portion of the overall solution. So that's certainly top of mind across areas like Citi. The other areas that we think a lot about is data quality and data lineage. That's a really important area. We have a lot of different systems inside of Citi, and it's a bank that's been built by acquisition, over its history, not recently, but over time, not in recent years though. And that inevitably leads to having a bunch of different systems stitched together, which creates complexity when you want to trace data across the enterprise, which is important to be able to understand, this field here, what is it the result of, where did it come from, those types of things, right? So that's another area, is understanding sort of data lineage and data quality. That's a very sort of top of mind issue. I think on the banking side, it's about things like banking as a service and becoming more nimble to be able to offer, incremental features and new capabilities more quickly to our customer base. Those are the things that I hear about. And then strategically, we've combined our global consumer bank and our wealth business into one business, and growing sort of that business as well.
Wonderful. I think there is one question from Madhu.
Yeah. Hey, thanks, Matt, for going through all this stuff. Sorry, I was a little bit late, so I may have missed a few things.
No worries. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Just quickly asking question: if you invest in HR tech, and if you have done anything, because there's a lot of stuff from an AI perspective that's also going into HR tech. Would love to hear your perspective on that.
Yeah, good question. And we have done two investments there. One, a company called Eightfold.ai, which is think about it as a talent management platform. So it can help in a couple ways. It can help with talent acquisition, and it can also help with talent mobility inside the enterprise. But basically what Eightfold has done is looked at people's career trajectory over a large corpus of data, and helps you understand, given where somebody is in their career and the skills they have, what's the most likely next role for them that might not be completely obvious. And that can help you when you are trying to recruit new people, and maybe you can identify other people or take that data, apply it to their background, and sort of stack rank based on their background or their experience, like who are the top candidates. For example, it turns some of the traditional paradigms on its head from a recruiting perspective, which is, Eightfold has one of their products is, instead of going to the Citi website and looking up or a company's website, for example, and looking up all the jobs that might be of interest to them based on some kind of query or search, you upload your resume and it'll recommend the top 5 jobs based on your background that you're a fit for. So what they've done is said, hey, here's people that are successful in their roles, here's their backgrounds, and here's kind of their career trajectories, and they can use that to sort of invert the problem, if you will, which I think is pretty interesting. And then also has really important impact on internal mobility, which is, hey, when we're looking to fill a role, maybe there's somebody in the organization that this would be the next step in their career, but because we haven't had a tool like this before, it's very hard to recognize and understand, and then, sort of promote that person into that career path or that role. So Eightfold's one. And then there's another one called Forage. I think it's The Forage, is the website. And their motto is, instead of hire and train, train then hire, which is to say, this is for campus recruiting. And what it allows you to do is to students while they're still in college. So not, don't wait till they're seniors, but you engage them when they're freshmen, when they're sophomores. You can put together modules as a company that says, hey, here's what it's like to be an attorney at Wilson Sonsini. Here's what it's like to be a trader in the markets group at Citi. Here's what it's like to be an investment banker at Citi. Here's what it's like to work at Citi Ventures at Citi. Different roles with these modules that could be video based, as well as some exercises as well. And it gives the students a way to engage earlier in their career thinking process to understand, like, oh, what is this role like? Would I like it? Would I not like it? Oh man, investment banking, I definitely don't want to do that after they try the module, right? Or maybe they really like it. It also gives the company a way to engage the students earlier in their career decision process, and the company can also get feedback on how engaged the students are and how well they perform on those tasks. For example, so if like the lawyer module had like, hey, Matt went through all 10 hours, Wilson's like, Matt went through all 10 hours of the attorney module and he watched it all, and he did really well on the exercises we gave him around, these 3 papers he had to write. They know I'm engaged, they know I'm qualified, so they have a better pipeline of candidates. And so that's what Forage is trying to do. So those are the 2 that we've done so far. We've looked at other stuff, which is like, assessments, like assessing coders on their coding capability and things like that. We just haven't made any investments there yet.
Sanjit, do you have time for one more question, or are you running out of time?
Very brief, sorry. And this will be the last question.
Okay. What about all the hybrid work? Are you taking a stand on the hybrid work in terms of investments? Are you thinking hey, that's it's done, it's gone, it's COVID is no more?
No, I think you still have this challenge of not everybody's in the office every day. We do have a hybrid, for most people, a hybrid. I think the average role is a hybrid environment in 3 days, home 2 days. There are some that are required to be in the office full time. There are some that are remote full time. But you then have this problem around collaborating in that type of environment.
Yep.
We've looked at a number of things. We haven't made any investments there. We use a lot of the Microsoft tools internally. But some of the things I've seen that are more interesting are like almost like a little bit of like a virtual world with conference rooms where you can move in and out of and things like that. And it kind of maybe a little bit levels the playing field for everybody in the environment. We haven't adopted any of those solutions yet, but I think there is something there. It's just we haven't really used it. But how do you, for people, if not everybody's in the same place, how do you recreate like that water cooler, walking around type of environment? And there's a number of companies in that space, but we haven't done anything there yet.
Thanks.
Yeah, of course.
Wonderful. Thank you, Matt, for sharing about Citi Ventures and your thoughts on the areas of investment. So thank you so much, and for sharing the slides on Citi Ventures overview as well. So next we will go into the pitching session. There are 4 companies pitching. There's actually one more, but Steve had to leave because of a flight. So we'll start with Girish. Girish will talk about Rockfish data. So every company will have 5 minutes to pitch, and maybe time for one question only. And I've published the pitching order, so please be ready to share your screen when your turn is next, okay? So Girish, go ahead, please.
Thank you so much, Sanjit, and Ekta and Matt, thanks for the overview. So I'm Girish Mukai, co-founder, CEO of Rockfish Data. Excited to talk to you. We have a generative AI solution, especially focused on time series type data, transactions and time series type data. So that's where Rockfish's focuses on. Team-wise, we are the foundational innovation came from Carnegie Mellon University. So both Julia and Vyas, as well as some of the students have joined us from there. They've been working on this for the last 5 years. We believe that the technology we have is a game changer in terms of ability to not only represent a set of time series data, but also be able to generate from there for various applications. So very excited, and we also have a advisory board with folks from both hardcore practitioners as well as some from the research side. So it's sort of
awesome. Rohini is married to Arvind, who leads Citi Ventures. So
absolutely. I know him well, Matt. Yeah, talk to him periodically. Yes.
Excellent.
Awesome. Small world, right? Yeah.
Yes.
And so the setting for us is any enterprise that has AI, ML, or analytics, which nowadays anybody worth their salt ought to be. If they're not, they may not be around for long. And types of data people see and the applications we see, quite financial, fintech, quite a bit. That's a key piece. Number 2, in the cybersecurity space and communications, we see types of data that are really in this manner, time series type data, session time series data, and also in other fields as well. So essentially, everyone has this fastest growing data set today. I'll talk about one problem and then generalize it where we apply. So there is a growing gap between what data people see in production and what data scientists and ML engineers see when they test or model. Big gap, and this gap continues to grow today. And that has been a big issue. And many people also need generative data, especially for various simulation, what-if scenarios, predictions, etc. So the way to do that is, unless you know what the actual data is and have a representation of that, then you can generate higher fidelity or high fidelity generative data. That's sort of our approach. So first, understand the data, then you're able to predict it. And of course, this is due to storage costs and retention policies and compliance and all that, multiple reasons why this gap continues to grow right out there. And so what Rockfish has, we have a deep generative model. We can look at session time series type data, learn all the statistical properties of this. So we take, let's say, 1 day at a time data that comes in, able to understand the distributions, correlations, time-based dependencies, the whole 9 yards, and store it as a compact model parameter, set of model parameters. Then we can use that to generate synthetic data, generate generative data, and so on. And then we can amplify signals. We can, fraud. We can increase it for stress test and supply chain. We can say that, certain things are not happening. How does that affect the system? And then we can also generate data for, geospatial, for example. You learn data from San Francisco of how people move. You can apply it to Denver or Seattle, for example. Any of that stuff. That's kind of the general idea. Of course, the other applications are, in addition to model training and testing, lots of simulation, data augmentation is a big area nowadays. I think earlier, when you were discussing about data versus models and algorithms, I think we have made serious headway in models and algorithms, and they continue to be out in the open. It's the data that needs to augment it in order to make sure the models are working at the best efficiency or best level possible. And the data is not, plain old simple data. It has to be tailored towards it with various aspects, and that's where we play. And we can store the data, replay it. We can amplify signals. Obviously, the privacy part is very important, especially if you share data with multiple different parties, and very important of that. And then, of course, the generation part. So we play. Innovation, foundational stuff came out of CMU. We base it on generative adversarial networks now, GANs. All these are open source, the initial part of it. Rockfish, we have an arrangement with CMU, but we will continue to open source any algorithmic advancements, but anything else related to scaling different types of data schemas, how we handle all this stuff will all be Rockfish proprietary. Just want to touch on just one chart, top right, where the holy grail in this is all about how well can a model approximate the real data. So doppelganger is our approach, and you can see that the cumulative distribution function of a correlation here, just close, and that's where the end of the day, how well we do. Otherwise, we can always generate data, but if it's not, especially complex data, if it doesn't approximate it, it's of very low value. In terms of landscape, lots of companies in the image and video and chat space, of course, we know, and we discussed earlier today, and lots of companies in the tabular data space. I know Citi has invested in mostly, Matt.
Correct, yep.
Right. Of course, we play in the session time series. Has been a really hard problem for people to solve. Because of our advancements, we believe we have a good solution that works at this point. We are right now, the company is just a few months old. We have one pilot already ongoing. We'll be kicking off multiple pilots in the next coming weeks at this point. And reach about five companies or so as design partners, early access customers in this quarter. We are already working with one. And last slide, we are raising a pre-seed round, 1.5 million. We are at about 1 million mark at this point, raising the remaining 500K. Safe, that's the instrument of this.
Cool. Look, it's an interesting area. As you said, we invested mostly. I don't think mostly time series focused. I think time series could be relevant to the bank because we have a lot of time series data, trading data, things like that tend to be very time series focused. So it's definitely an area of interest. I think I think the key questions here are obviously, as you talked about, like the accuracy of the data relative to the underlying data set, and then the ability to sort of maintain privacy, but have something that's sort of like highly accurate.
Sorry, I can't hear Matt.
Yeah, we lost. I thought
Okay.
it was.
Yeah, let's give him a second. He'll come back probably. Meanwhile, our next pitch is going to be from Ben. Ben, can you please be ready to share your screen? Ben Person.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. Let's wait for Matt to come back.
Hopefully you can see my screen.
Yeah, we can see your screen, but let's wait.
Thank you.
Give him a second.
Yeah, and quite some interesting applications, Sanjit and Ekta.
Yeah.
Especially in
cybersecurity
in particular, and multiple other areas, right?
Totally.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. I had a little VPN issue. Apologies.
No problem. That's okay. Yeah, no worries. Thanks for joining back.
Anyway, Girish, would love to learn more and stay in touch. So
absolutely. Thank you, Matt. We'll stay in touch.
All right. Thank you, Girish. Next, we have Ben in person, and he's going to talk about Cadence. The name sounds familiar.
Thank you, Matt. Thank you, Sanjit. Appreciate the time today, guys. My name's Ben Pearson. I'm our CEO and co-founder of Cadence. In my prior role, I was a CMO at a tech startup built on ServiceNow. Prior to that, I worked for Dell and ran a global ServiceNow practice, which I'll talk more about as we go through this. My co-founding team comes from the tech space, comes from the MarTech space, Salesforce primarily, along with the digital asset management space. We just received seed funding back in December of 2022 from two primary funders. High Alpha, if you're not familiar with High Alpha, they're a studio venture firm based here in Indianapolis, Indiana, and they are the marketing cloud from Salesforce. So Scott Dorsey and the team there backed us and is looking at really what can we do to bring a MarTech solution into a brand new platform called ServiceNow. So ServiceNow is also a backer in our business and investor as part of this initial round of funding. Now we look at
I know Phil well because Phil and I overlapped at Cisco, so he's a great partner to have on your team.
Fantastic. So. Yeah, Phil's fantastic. He was an investor in the last company I was at. So yeah, he's great to work with. So we look at the overall cloud wars that are going on. ServiceNow, if you're not familiar with ServiceNow, $7 billion publicly traded company, growing to, we'll see them somewhere around that 16 billion public revenue annually by 2026. They are actively going after a number of additional verticals. They called me and said, we need to have marketing tech on our platform. And we're going to go after both sales and marketing over the next few years, which is why I decided to raise my hand and jump into this journey with them. Been around ServiceNow for the last 11 years of my career. And they're direct competitors with Salesforce and SAP. Obviously, Bill McDermott, the CEO of ServiceNow, comes from SAP. And so they see a massive market. They're not only they're increasing their forecast of revenue for the rest of this year. And they just published that, the partner ecosystem is going to be a key to their strategy. And that's why we're building our company on the back of ServiceNow, native to ServiceNow. So as a CMO, this is the problem I'm faced with. So you think about marketing organizations, like look at Citi and their marketing organization. They have over 1,500 marketers around the world. Managing marketing work for this organization is incredibly complex. Even small organizations see this complexity. And you think about how do we manage and deliver efficiently and effective marketing and service? And the world of work works on ServiceNow, yet marketing is on an island. They live on their own world. And today we are going to bring them off that island and onto an enterprise work management system that the rest of the organization already uses. IT already uses it. HR already uses it. Finance and legal and facilities already use it. And marketing collaborates with those organizations all the time. Our first product that we'll bring to market, it'll be live, available, generally available in April of this year, is marketing work management, marketing project management. You'll see the likes of Adobe Workfront, Asana, Jira. There's a long list of competitors that offer a very siloed approach to this work management that doesn't look at it enterprise-wide. And so we'll have this solution in market, like I mentioned, here just in a few months. Development's underway. But in the end, the goal is a single unified enterprise platform, and we are directly going after enterprise accounts. We have accounts already coming live on the platform like Bridgestone Tires. ServiceNow themselves have 700 marketers. They're going to be coming onto our platform. We're looking for big enterprises. ServiceNow has over 10,000 global customers. Citi is one of them, certainly. Visa, MasterCard, all the big accounts already use ServiceNow. And we want to scale the use of that platform with our marketing solution. Some of our clients we've already signed on to using our solution, including a number of industries. We are focused on US accounts initially, but we will be scaling internationally as well because of the platform itself supports language localization, currency localization, and every compliance check, including FedRAMP certifications, GDPR, and the list goes on. For us, we're going to reach that $1 million mark around early 2024, Q1 of 2024. We are going to be a multi-product MarTech company. The days of these siloed, singular MarTech solutions are, to us, we're going to be looking at a true platform play, and getting to 100 million in revenue is going to be a multi-product approach. We will find some verticalization, most likely. I know, Matt, you did mention that verticalization is going to be a key. We will find certain industries, fintech, certainly an area we may have an opportunity, life sciences and pharma, another area we may be looking at. and healthcare for verticalization. If you look at the overall TAM for this business, it's a $12.6 billion TAM as it is today, growing to $23 billion by 2027, across these three primary product areas. Our ideal customer profile, as I mentioned, is that Fortune 5000. All these existing ServiceNow customers can immediately take value, snap in our product. Matt, you talk about security and cybersecurity and complexities of organizations. Well, just look at marketing tech stacks and how big those are and what the risk of those MarTech stacks could be. What if we could eliminate the 10 to 20 to 30 work management tools that are already being used by Citi's marketing organization? Overall, this is our product strategy. It's my last slide, and I'll open it for questions. This first product we'll launch in April is going to be focused specifically on marketing work management, and it's going to go deep into marketing. We're not doing generic work management. This is deep in marketing with pre-built templates for every marketing function, from trade shows to content generation to a website, the list goes on, that's already going to be pre-packaged into our solution. We're partnering with key technology partners like 6 Sense and Terminus, and the list goes on of their pre-packed best practices that now we can cross-sell into their markets that they're selling into. Digital asset management will be the second product. So as people are building content in the work solution, they'll be able to now store it and deliver those digital assets through our solution. Message and lead go directly at the Salesforce Marketing Cloud space, directly at Adobe's Marketo products. Our goal is to offer a true marketing cloud built on ServiceNow. Any questions?
I guess my question is like the integration with ServiceNow is like, it's almost like building on like force.com for Salesforce. Is that like the analogy?
Exactly it. Yeah, Matt, about 10 years ago, ServiceNow built the ability to build apps on their environment exactly like force.com. They're mirroring that model. And for us, the last company I was at, we built exclusively on ServiceNow, and it's native. It's not an integration. It is truly native. It's an app that you snap into ServiceNow that now gives a company the advantage of a single platform, single database, single architecture, and single security model that now they can have marketing working in that same system.
Makes sense. And do you see the benefits as those, like, help me weigh the benefits between that single, like, hey, I don't need a new platform. I know the security model, those types of things, like synergies with other things that you do on ServiceNow. Do you see some synergies where like having, there's like a 1 + 1 = 3 type of situation?
There's tons, Matt. Think about all the use cases where marketing has to collaborate cross-departmentally, all kinds of them. So the website, managing work between marketing and IT, marketing and HR, marketing and legal, everything from legal reviews of press releases to IT pushes of the website to the latest annual enrollment from HR. Like, marketing is constantly supporting the entire business. Now they can do those workflows right in a single enterprise platform.
Got it.
Yeah.
Very cool. Very cool.
Wonderful. Thank you, Ben. Great pitch.
Thank you very much.
Yes, I have a question.
Please.
Sanjit, I have a last question, very quick.
Yes. Yes.
Is for the sake of the investors, so that we understand the return trajectory, will acquire you?
Is the question around an acquisition question? I'm sorry.
Yes, it's the question about ServiceNow will be a natural acquirer versus going public.
Yeah, it's a good question. Certainly, we will cross that road when we get there. Certainly that's one option of an exit strategy. For us, we want to build an amazing business and get ourselves to 100 million of annual revenue plus. So, our goal right now is focus on the business, but that certainly could be one of the exit strategies as opposed to an IPO, depending on the financial markets at that time.
Wonderful.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ben.
Thank you. Thanks, Ben. All right. Next week. Yeah, great. Awesome. Thank you, Malgozeta. All right, go ahead, please. We can't hear you. You're on mute. It's still muted. We cannot hear you. Okay, now there you go.
All right.
So you have to start again. Yeah.
Hi, everyone. My name is Małgorzata Jaremko. I'm the founder and CEO of Gosia Genomics. We are a personalized genetics platform for prevention of chronic and mental health diseases. Our team consists of myself. I'm board certified genetist with over 20 years of experience. I build different startup companies, laboratories, different product, and work also in larger corporations. And last year I exited from company with from similar space. Ray is our CFO, COO. He has over 20 years of experience in managing finances and operations. We also have on our advisory board concierge medicine physicians and a physician that is also AI expert. And we're looking towards adding more concierge medicine practitioners that will help us to build our solution. So if you think about 1 in 5 supposedly healthy individuals carry some type of risk for any of the most common chronic and mental health diseases. And many of us experience that personally: Alzheimer's disease in the family, cancer in the family members. The good news is that proactive DNA testing can provide information about those type of risks before the disease develops. And concierge medicine and patient-initiated testing with third-party medical doctor approvals seems to be the best ecosystem for prognostic genetic testing, because those physicians and patients that will take this type of testing, they actively looking to apply prevention care, and also those are both out-of-pocket environments, because currently insurance companies do not want to pay for genetic testing in a typical diagnostic setting. However, the problem is that patients and physicians are not getting full benefits of genetic testing. There are various reasons for that. For instance, scattered gene panels. You go to classical medical stream genetic testing company, they will only test you for inherited cancers. And a few years from now, family members comes down with heart attack. And now you might question, hey, do I have any risk for any of the cardiac diseases? And then there are many other reasons that genetic testing is currently not effective. So the main question is how effectively we can provide genetic testing to benefit patients and their physicians. So this is where Gosia Genomics came with the solution of comprehensive turnkey DNA testing platform. So basically it consists from 3 components. So first is saliva-based DNA sequencing test. So we target disease risk for various types of chronic and mental health diseases: anxiety, depression, high cholesterol, hypertension, osteoporosis, different type of cancers, and also much more complex diseases such as diabetes, obesity, stroke, together with personalized treatment selection for currently available generic treatments for various conditions, and also nutrition and wellness markers. So for instance, how markers for sleep, for vitamin intake, for optimal diet selections, and so on. And all of that is coupled together with disease prediction AI and reporting platform. So basically, over time, we intend to train our prediction algorithms, because genetics is currently interpreted in the simple way: single gene, single mutation, and single disease. And it doesn't work like that for more complex diseases like stroke or diabetes. So there's really necessary need to put all the potential single mutation together with all the other genetic type of risks, so this data can be interpreted in more effective way. So the solution is complemented with extensive genetic, dietary, health, wellness, counseling, and coaching, because basically providing this type of information for physician or patient is not effective. This data needs to be explained, and patients need to be provided with treatment and some action plans, so they can actually act on this information. And from my experience, many patients undergoing genetic testing, they do not engage with even genetic counseling. So that's why we intend to also build patient educational platform as simple as some cell phone application where the patient can in a simple way learn about all the different conditions that they are at risk for, and then they can also be connected with additional tools. So for instance, if someone suffers from anxiety or work burnout because they spend whole day in front of the computer, they might get connected with some tool that helps them to relax throughout the day. So how this works, so B2C and B2B2C. So patient-initiated testing, so patient order test online. Our third-party physicians approve the test. The saliva then is being sent to our third-party CLIA lab. And B2B2C in concierge medicine office, the sample is collected and the test is prescribed at that moment. So the DNA sequencing is performed in third-party CLIA laboratory. In the future, we also intend to add the regular blood work tests. So I have a already partner laboratory that will be able to provide that. So that way we could train algorithms not only based on the genetics data, but blood chemistry and some other associated data. So that's where Gosia Genomics comes with the CLIA dry lab. So basically all of this works under the CLIA regulation here in US. So we don't need to get FDA approval. It's laboratory developed tests and all the analytics. And then, as mentioned before, after the patient undergoes the test, there's all the different type of counseling and coaching provided together with education platform, and then patient have option to subscribe for any of those. And our value proposition is we empower individuals with the knowledge about the lifelong health risks, and also provide them with some actionable plans, how they can prevent some of the diseases. Of course, genetic doesn't explain everything, and it can also not provide information how to treat every single disease. And there are some diseases that we're testing for, like Alzheimer's disease, that there are no current treatment, but at least patient and the family member can prepare for might come in the future. And all of that is with the aim to provide better quality of life and well-being. And as a study case, stroke and sports-related injuries, it costs a lot of spending in the healthcare cost if those events happen. And then there's also a lot of personal impact on the patient themselves. So for instance, in case of stroke, severe disability that impact not only patient life, well-being, but also all the family members that need to care for that specific individual. So there are no established yet economic studies in terms of how to translate use of genetic testing into saving in terms of dollars, but definitely there are some studies indicating that the diet lifestyle changes can prevent all the conditions that leading to stroke, like diabetes, hypertension, high cholesterol level, and so on.
Sorry, we'll have to wrap it up. I apologize to interject.
So this is a growing market in genetic testing. North America is in the leading position. Down the road, we look into branch into additional applications like sports medicine, women health and health and wellness, and also mental health diseases. And we have, so we are pre-seed, but we have outreaches from various potential customers. We just need to raise currently $450,000 to finish our CLIA validations and roll out the baseline of the test, so we can start offering it to the patients and physicians. And then afterwards, we're looking to scale up operations, sales, and that will be our future seed round. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Thank you, Malgorzata. Matt, not sure if you would have any comments on this. Any quick comment?
Not an area that I know well, unfortunately. So I don't know that I have any. I mean, it sounds super interesting and important, but my depth of domain in the genetics and genomic space is pretty low. So
no worries. Thank you for listening, though. Yeah, last pitch. Thank you, Malgorzata. Last pitch we have is Uday talking about Sentry AI. Go ahead, Uday.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Again, as Sanjit introduced, Uday Kiran Chaka, I'm the founder and CEO of Sentry AI. So we have an AI guard for every site to improve the safety and security of our communities. And Matt, we are actually in touch with the IT lead at Citi, who is responsible for all the security infrastructure from the physical security side. So anyway, I would love to tell you more about what we do. First and foremost, the security, the physical security, as you know from your reports about the local news or like you open Nextdoor, it's all about package theft, about catalytic converter theft and all. So this industry, like surprisingly, we spend $150 billion on physical security, very reactive, and the systems are very antiquated and designed more for postmortems rather than to prevent things, right? More than 400 million cameras are installed, but 97% of them are actually not even monitored live. And because of that, the insurance companies pay off nearly $15 billion every year to cover these losses, right? That's exactly what we are fixing with AI guards from Sentry AI. So we have infused AI into this process to improve the automation efficiency, to make this more proactive and focus more on preventing crime. And with the platform evolving, from learning, we are able to anticipate and prevent crime from happening. And then lastly, because we are bending the cost curve down, we are able to monitor a lot more of these cameras and other sensors to help improve these outcomes and reduce the crime. So how are we different? The primary reason is using technology first to bring AI into every step of the process. And our customers and industry experts have evaluated our AI, and our core AI itself is really good. But on top of it, we are able to infuse this into the traditional monitoring and the security guard patrolling. I think that's what is delighting our customers, and they're finally finding a solution that works for them in this industry. We are primarily creating this new category called alarm fusion, where you're familiar with alarm panels like your door ADT panels, for example, right? Or access control systems. So we are the first ones to have a back-end integration with those systems, with security cameras, and with the processes typically used by security guards to create a true vision of AI-powered guard, right? And this architecture is kind of simplified for the end customers in the form of mobile apps for patrol guards primarily, and for those in a SOC or a security operations center, a desktop-based application. And here's an example of the crime prevention in action. Within 4 seconds, we actually informed the customer on site that there is a intrusion on property. And we also informed a monitoring center. Within a minute, they were able to call the police and had the police on site to apprehend the criminal. This is something that would not have happened otherwise without that responsiveness that we brought in through AI. So we target primarily monitoring centers. These could be either captive monitoring centers like the ones Citi has, or it could be a remote third-party monitoring centers for big franchises of these retail chains like 7-Elevens or for example, like Subways. So these monitoring centers typically monitor about 10,000 sites and present today an opportunity of about 200,000. But as they continue to monitor more cameras of their customers, they could grow to more than $1 million in business every year. And there are 15,000 such monitoring centers, and we are in deep partnerships with the 2 providers of the software for these centers. And with that, we would be able to reach a pretty big market very quickly. We are differentiating ourselves from the just pure computer vision companies and those who provide the technology to these monitoring centers and fusing them. We are creating a new category. We have a lot of customers today who really like our product, as you can see from our websites. We have a lot of these case studies on our website. A very solid pipeline, which includes GuardWorld, world's largest privately held security company, who have loved our product, and we are in pilots and discussions with a lot of other companies as well. We are currently at 200K in ARR and targeting 75 million ARR by 2026 and to be profitable as well. Very strong team with expertise in AI. I myself have 2 patents in computer vision. and with deep domain security experience as well. We've raised about $3 million from guys like Tim Draper, Thai Angels, and a few other angel and early stage VC funds. And we're looking to raise our Series A in the Q2 of this year. Primarily, we have basically got the product, we've got a great team, and we have customers who have expressed strong interest to continue to use our product and expand the footprint. And we are now looking to basically scale, raise money and scale rapidly. So again, Sentry AI with a vision to have an AI guard for every site to improve our safety and security. Thank you.
Thank you, Uday.
Thank you, Uday.
Great. Any quick question or comment for Matt? For Uday?
Yeah, I mean, should I think about it as like a software layer on top of cameras, or are you building the cameras too?
No, pure software. So one of the big differentiations, and this is the reason why Parker McDonald, he's the guy from Citi who we are talking to, Matt. The reason why he really likes what we are doing is because we don't need any rip and replace. Ours is a no-code integration, so a SaaS solution which can run on any cloud, private cloud, public cloud with multi-tenancy, and that connects to any cameras that are there on site. So that's a big differentiation. Some new companies have started offering AI-based cameras, but they come at like $2,000, price point, and a lot of typical business cameras are in the $100 range. So we strongly believe, the future is where you make it work with what customers have and not sell them this new hardware. And that's the reason why a lot of customers like what we are doing. It takes a lot of time, right, to get all these things work well with the existing infrastructure. And so that's what we have been able to accomplish so far.
Got it. Thank you.
Wonderful. Yeah. Thank you very much, Uday. That brings us to the end of the pitching session and also the end of today's event. Let's give a big round of applause to Matt for taking the time out of his busy schedule. Thank you so much, Matt.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it. Yeah, thanks. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. And we will publish the recording after we share it with Matt. Thank you very much, Matt, and we'll be in touch. And thank you, everybody, for joining and for the energy and for pitching.
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity. Enjoyed the time together. Thanks so much. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you, Matt.